Just a few months ago, it looked like the Pac-12 was completely dead. You had the fake nonsense of Oregon State and Washington State still technically being in it, but everyone knew that the conference was completely dead, the network was over, and the Pac-12 was as good as dead. But with just 1% of their life left, the Pac-12 has now found a way to basically get back into the game. Will they be a Power 5 conference? Probably not. But will they be better than what we all expected? And will they have a chance at being a decent conference to watch? I think the answer to both of those is yes, and in today's video, we're going to talk about everything going on in the Pac-12 as they've recently talked about some new expansion teams and why the future of the conference does look a little bit bright. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about the new Pac-12. Whoa, so the conference realignment wheel just keeps turning with the announcement that San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State, and Colorado State will be leaving the Mountain West Conference and helping to rebuild the Pac-12 starting in 2026. This is a huge change in college athletics, and even though it doesn't feel like the Pac-12 is much of a power conference anymore, it's still sad that they could possibly fade away. So the fact that they'll be sticking around in some sort of form is good news, but it also probably creates some future problems for other schools and other conferences. Let's start at the beginning. Obviously, with Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah leaving for the Big 12, and Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA leaving for the Big 10, this put 4 remaining Pac-12 schools in a tough spot. So Cal and Stanford decided to jump ship, and they joined the ACC this past year, leaving just Oregon State and Washington State as members of the conference. There's a lot of talk about the conference dissolving since there were only 2 members left, or that Oregon State and Washington State decided to leave, or that Oregon State and Wazoo would leave and join the Mountain West instead. But what ended up happening instead was kind of interesting. Oregon State and Washington State sued the Pac-12 commissioner and the conference and legally obtained the Pac-12's remaining financial assets, seeing as they were the Pac-12 now. After that, they ended up forming a scheduling agreement in football with the Mountain West Conference and temporarily joined the West Coast Conference for sports other than football. The West Coast Conference is the same conference that has St. Mary's, Gonzaga, and will have Grand Canyon and Seattle, and their football scheduling agreement left them out of playing for the conference championship. But it did give them regional opponents to play, and did keep them from having to create a full independent style schedule for the 2024 season. In early September though, it looked like not even the Mountain West really wanted them. The deadline for the Pac-2 and the Mountain West to renew their football scheduling deal came and went without a deal being struck. The Mountain West released a statement that hinted they were the ones who pulled the plug, saying, quote, "For the 2025 season, the Mountain West and its member institutions are moving forward with their conference and non-conference schedules." That's when the news came out last week that the Pac-12, which was just down to Oregon State and Washington State, was actually going to be adding Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Colorado State, instead of joining the Mountain West themselves or creating another scheduling agreement. The Mountain West could have worked together with the 2 schools to create another scheduling agreement, but instead they declined to work with them even further, and now it looks like the Pac-2 has them on the ropes by adding those 4 schools and potentially more. The new Pac-12 commissioner, Teresa Gold, said, quote, "For over a century, the Pac-12 Conference has been recognized as a leading brand in intercollegiate athletics. We will continue to pursue the bold cutting-edge opportunities for growth and progress to best serve our member institutions and student athletes. This is an exciting new era for the Pac-12 Conference, and it begins today." Immediately, this puts pressure on both the Pac-12 and Mountain West to go out and find new members, which could create another shockwave of realignment that affects multiple levels of competition in the NCAA. A conference needs a minimum of 10 members to have a conference championship game for football. The Pac-12 now has 6, and the Mountain West now has 8 for football, with Hawaii being an affiliate, so they really only have 7. They both are immediately in expand now mode. Let's start with the Pac-12, who announced they added these 4 schools to their conference. So far, the schools added remained in the former Pac-12's influence range, with the only school in a new state being Boise State, who in the state of Idaho borders both Washington and Utah. If the Pac-12 wants to remain in the Mountain or Pacific time zones, most of the schools available to take are in the Mountain West already. The first school that comes to mind is UNLV, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas is beginning to become more and more of an important location in sports across the country, with the A's and Raiders moving there from Oakland, and the NHL starting a new hockey team there in the last 10 years. The NBA is even interested in starting a team there, so Las Vegas' influence on sports in the United States is only growing. The downside is that UNLV has not been a good football program in the past and has only recently started to look good under head coach Barry Odom, so they don't have a great football brand at the moment. But they have plenty of resources and have everything at their disposal to be a sleeping giant. Aside from that, UNLV is one branch of the University of Nevada system, with the Nevada Wolfpack being another. There are some rumors that the state legislature doesn't want to split the two schools up. UNLV, as bad as their football brand is way better of an addition than Nevada is, so that could cause some hiccups. Other Mountain West schools that could leave are New Mexico, Air Force, and Wyoming. Of these three, the most likely school to add is Air Force, given their elite academic standing, and brand is one of the branches of the United States military. The military academies have nationwide fan bases for obvious reasons, and so far, Colorado State is the only school that's furthest east in the conference, and they are without a rival. Air Force could fit that bill and help provide another school out east. Colorado State's other rival, Wyoming, has a lot of ranch money from donors, but doesn't have the branding nor the population around it to be considered much beyond their athletics. New Mexico is the only other likely option from the Mountain West, considering their strong history in basketball, but they are too a terrible football brand who hasn't won more than 8 games in the season since 2016 under Bob Davis. I know currently the American is targeting Air Force, but I don't think the story is over yet, and the Pac-12 could make a good bid at them. This leaves schools outside of the Mountain West as potential additions, and they need to be the best of the rest in order to help the Pac's case as remaining a power conference. The top teams are Rice, Tulane, Memphis, UTSA, and USF. Considering it's a conference of smaller schools now, I don't see them pushing too far east for schools, so teams like UConn or USF probably won't be considered no matter how good they are. That leaves Rice, Tulane, Memphis, and UTSA, with the two best brands there being Memphis and Tulane. While they aren't anywhere near the Pacific Ocean, the Pac-12 needs to do whatever they can to survive as a conference, and those two are the best group of 5 brands left out there. Rice isn't much of a football brand, but they do have a ton of wealthy alumni and a good academic standing, and UTSA is a good football school now, even though they're a commuter school and don't have much of an established alumni fan base. The Roadrunners have struggled to start the season so far, but overall the trajectory of the program's in a good spot, and Jeff Traylor is a good coach, and they're only going to get better. Most UTSA fans are also fans of A&M or Texas, and then fans of the Roadrunners, which does make them the secondary team. Maybe joining the Pac-12 would help them, but maybe not. We'll just have to wait and see. My guess is that the Pac-12 will invite Memphis, Tulane, Air Force, and New Mexico to get to a 10-member conference, and then we'll further look to add both Rice and UTSA to help solidify an eastern branch of the conference. It'd be cool if they could get Cal and Stanford back, but I just don't think that's happening right now. That would leave the Mountain West with 6 football members and 5 all-sports members, and it would leave the American with just 8 football members. Both of those conferences would immediately need to expand to compete, and I just don't know if that's going to happen. For the Mountain West, they would need to at least add 4 members, and it gets pretty dicey. They do have access to a lot of FCS teams in the area that would likely be able to move, as UC Davis has already released banners of their new FBS stadium, but most of the interest is going to center around Montana, Montana State, North Dakota State, and South Dakota State. While I'm not sure if those schools would be willing to jump up levels, especially the 2 Dakota schools and how much they'd be spending on travel, but the Mountain West is almost certainly going to ask them to join here soon. Other options include New Mexico State and UTEP from Conference USA, as well as pretty much any other Texas school, and maybe even Tulsa will want to leave the American. But that would create another expansion need for those other conferences. The American would probably look at schools in higher media markets like Georgia State and Atlanta, or Florida International and Miami. But again, this creates another hole in conferences like Conference USA or the Sun Belt, and I honestly think there's a possibility that one of those conferences will look weak, and the other conferences will come in and pick them apart. Right now that feels like Conference USA, but they don't really have any members that would be good to add. You guys will have to let me know what you think down in the comment section below. How will the Pac-12 play in this new era of college sports? Well, if I had to be honest, it doesn't really feel like a power conference anymore. They are building themselves as being the best of the rest, but how is that any different than what the American is right now? I could see them being a conference that gets a G6 bid to the playoff a lot of years, but the Sun Belt and American will also have some good teams every once in a while. They will play some good football, but honestly, I think their time as a power conference is done. The good news is, though, they're going to survive as a conference, but it does mean that a whole bunch of other conferences, maybe even down to the FCS level, are going to lose existing members, and that means they'll be put on the expansion block again. Some other schools that do come to mind are Sacramento State and Idaho, as Idaho used to be FCS and could maybe use a jump up to a conference, and Sacramento State is one of the top remaining schools in the state of California, which is obviously a huge market and would also geographically make sense. From there, I don't even know though, as I would have never expected SMU, Cal, or even Stanford to join the ACC, so you never know. Maybe a school like Appalachian State jumps over to the Pac-12, or maybe a school like WKU does it, or maybe even Temple. At this point, I have literally no idea, but it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm definitely excited to see some of these new matchups and to see how this all unfolds, but for now, it looks like conference expansion is just getting started, and even though we all thought it was done, it could just be the beginning again. But But what do you guys think? If you're a fan of the Pac-12, what do you think the conference should do? What do you think of conference realignment? And what school or situation should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.